However, I do believe the department did try to file that motion on March the 2nd. So if the parties wish to proceed on the department's motion to retain on the docket, first, I would like to hear the party's position on that. Ms. Rankin, I assume you would like to proceed on the department's motion to retain on the docket.
Yes, Your Honor, and I had included in that motion a certificate of conference where I had an opportunity to reach out to the attorneys in this case to see if they had any objections. And I was told that there were no objections. And that's included in the motion, and we will get that refiled.
It's a shame I couldn't see that motion. I looked for it all over and we discovered it said for some reason that it got canceled in the system. So you'll need to refile that.
Well, we had canceled my original filing because it didn't include the certificate of conference, and then we refiled it with the certificate of conference. So I will look into what happened, but we will definitely get that refiled.
All right. Mr. Ratliff, are you in agreement with proceeding today on the motion to retain?
We are, Your Honor. We're in agreement with the motion.
All right. Mr. Butler?
Your Honor, I assume we are. That had been the plan. Mr. Flores has speak to me though, so I want to check with him, make sure there hadn't been a change in plan on that, but I would believe that would be how we would proceed.
All right. And Ms. Martinez?
No objection. I'm in agreement with an extension.
All right. So we're going to go off the record and take about a 5-minute break and allow Mr. Butler to visit with his client, Mr. Flores, and we'll be back. We'll put them in a room and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Department calls Haley Flores. At this time, is the mother in compliance with her family plan of service?
She is.
And have you been able to go out recently to the home to ensure that it's safe and appropriate for a child?
Yes, ma'am. I went last week.
Were there any safety concerns?
No, there was an issue with her back little patio thing, but I believe she's getting that already taken care of. She has sensors on the doors. She's got the bed set up. The house was clean. She had groceries in the pantry and the refrigerator. It was all home. It was ready for being home.
Okay, great. And how have the unsupervised visitations gone between respondent mother and the child?
They've gone well. They both really enjoy being with each other. They both very much love each other. I do believe it's been going very well.
And has Ms. Saldivar provided you with all of the necessary documentation, including MHMR records?
I have gotten the MHMR records. She hasn't sent me last month's paycheck stubs, but she talked to me this morning. She's going to send those. But I do have the MHMR release and they have sent me the documents.
Now, at this time, the department's not ready to begin a monitored return, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what are some of the issues that you are working with Ms. Saldivar in order to have a successful monitored return sometime in the future, hopefully?
We do have to approve of the people that is going to be helping her with Rosendo. And some of those do need to be approved with our PD, and we cannot state whether they are or not at this time. The PD has been provided information, but it has not been approved yet. She does have a working schedule that's a little different than most. It's like 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and sometimes she does go in early. So she is needing assistance with Rosendo at nights until she's able to come home. So.
Okay. And do you have a meeting set up with her sometime in the near future where you anticipate getting that list of names?
She has provided me with a very extensive list of names of people she is wanting to help with, and I have ran a majority of them. There are still a few that I have not completed yet. There's some paperwork that goes along with a few of them, so that is what I've been working on.
Now, the child's currently in Head Start, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that program doesn't go until 10 p.m.
No, ma'am.
Are there any daycares in Ms. Saldivar's area that do go till 10 p.m.?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay, so if she were to keep her current work schedule, she would be relying on friends and family for childcare.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has Mr. Flores been compliant with you?
To the extent that he's able to, and while he's incarcerated, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and he's still making monthly contact with the child through letters?
They do video chats. The child is currently placed with his sister, so they are able to do video chats, and those do go well.
Okay. So at this time, are you asking the court to approve a 180-day extension to give additional time to work with these parents in efforts to hopefully have a monitored return sometime in the near future?
That would have to be staffed with the PD for the monitor return, but I do believe that an extension is needed in order to work out the help that she needs, after hours because of her work schedule.
And is the goal still family reunification?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Ratliff, questions?
How many, she's furnished you with a list of names, one of which is her mother, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
I think that's going to be the primary. Have you verified her as a possible qualified caregiver?
The mother does have some past history that has to be approved through the PD first before I'm allowed to say that she is approved.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Butler, any questions?
Yes, Ms. Flores, in looking at this case and looking at the individuals she's in contact with and gonna have helping her, have you visited with Mr. Flores about this yet?
I have spoken to him about a couple of them, like her mother, and he's aware of that. And of course, his sister, which is Rosendo's current placement. I haven't spoken to him about the entire list because the entire list has not been fully gone through yet.
Okay. If he has some concerns with people on that list or individuals she's continuing to associate with or potentially could be, would you be talking to him about that?
Most definitely. I have been in contact with him. He called me after the last court hearing and I've sent him letters. So if there's any concerns, he has either voiced them to me already and I've already checked most of them out.
Okay. And are you going to continue to follow up on those concerns?
Most definitely.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Ms. Martinez?
Miss Flores, how is the placement going for Rosendo right now?
It's going great. He is growing up so fast. He's using his words more. She had him potty trained within like 2 weeks of him being there. They've done a really good job.
So you don't have any concerns about this current placement?
No, not at all.
And if this case is extended and he has to stay in that placement for 6 more months, you don't see any harm coming to him?
No, not at all.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Rankin, any additional questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Flores, can you tell me what the visitation currently is?
They have visits on Wednesdays and Fridays, right after school. So about 1:45, 2 o'clock for an hour. And then she did have 2 overnights at the end of last month. I can't remember the exact dates off the top of my head, but she is still having those overnights and those are going well. I think she had one this past weekend. Sorry. But they are going really well. They really enjoy being together.
So what's the schedule of the overnights?
It's normally on a weekend. Sometimes they do it during the week. It's kind of because of her schedule, the way it is. They work out between the 2 of them, and then they contact me and say, this is the best date that Candace is able to have him because of her work schedule. She does work really hard to make adjustments so she can have those overnights with Rosendo.
So that is the plan of the department, is that that would continue while we're working towards the return.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Anything additional, Ms. Rankin?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ratliff, any witnesses or statements?
Just one question of this witness, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Insofar as the Ledesmas are concerned, are they willing to provide babysitting when she's not available, when she's working?
They have stated that they will help when able to. They both do work and they are both nurses, so they do have a interesting schedule. And they have changed quite a bit since he's been there, and they're hoping to work a little bit more hours. But they did state that they will help when they are available.
Pass the witness, Your Honor, and we have no witnesses or questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, any additional questions or witnesses or statements?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Martinez?
Just to say I'm in full agreement with an extension, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. I will find that the court has jurisdiction to hear this case, and I do recall that Ms. Saldivar has been working very hard to get the return, and this job has been steady for her, so we don't want her to change her employment, but it has been an issue as far as the hours and being able to figure out how to work around those hours and do a return. So I do think that the circumstances necessitate an extension in this case so that a return can be done safely, and with the idea that whatever is set up with the idea that it's long-term, that it's not a temporary thing. So I like that there are lots of names being given, that there are backups to the backup. I do think that many people need to be checked because there's not always going to be somebody available to babysit at night. So making sure that there is a schedule and then there's a backup to that schedule is going to be important. And I also believe that Ms. Flores visiting with Mr. Flores and making sure he has some input on who's watching his son is important as well. So please visit with him prior to having that final schedule. So I'm going to grant the extension in this case. That means our new dismissal date will be October the 14th of 2023. Our next permanency hearing will be set for June the 12th of 2023 at 1:30 p.m. And our final hearing would be set for September the 13th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Because we've talked about it at the last hearing, we've talked about it today. I know that's where we're headed. If the motion for monitor return is signed off by all the parties and presented to the court, we can do that off docket. If there's some question about it, we can also set a hearing for the monitor return. Are there any questions or clarifications, Ms. Rankin?
Judge, just in light of today, I believe today is the dismissal date in this case, and so I want to make sure that the order extending is signed today. Do you want that e-filed or sent directly to you and Ms. Archer?
The clerk is here today, so if you'll e-file it, we can get it to us.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Ratliff, any questions or clarification?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Butler?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
All
get
right,
some
thank you
testimony
all.
on
And
extraordinary
we are
circumstances
and best interest, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Call Wendy Sonnenberg, and she'll be 1 in like 2 days, right?
Yes,
And she's with the fictive kin placement, Ms. Romine.
correct.
Okay, she's doing well in that placement.
Very well.
Okay. And just recently, the department found out that Mr. Acuna was determined to be the father of Ashley.
Correct.
And when this case first started, he was in jail.
Correct.
And as soon as he got out, he made it aware that he might possibly be the father. He made us aware.
Yes,
Before that, the mom, Miss Rojas, had not given us his name.
correct. She told me on several occasions that she did not have any idea who the father might be.
And once we found out his name and when he was released, we worked on getting DNA testing.
Correct.
And we had a little bit of problems with the AG's office getting that testing set up.
Indeed.
And while we were waiting on the testing, did Mr. Acuna work any services during that time?
He was attending visits during that time. I believe his visits began in mid to late September. He was also attending services through probation, including NAAA meetings, check-ins, drug testing. He did random drug testing for me.
And those were negative.
Correct.
And then since he was adjudicated in February of this year, has he stepped up the visits? Is he consistently visiting with Ashley?
His visits in January were not consistent. He had transportation and work issues. He was working out of town. He's gotten back on track and is visiting every week.
Where are those visits taking place?
They occur at the CPS office.
That's weekly. Is it for 1 hour?
Correct.
How do the visits go?
The visits are positive. Mr. Acuna has been receptive to suggestions, feedback. And so, yes, I no safety concerns during the visits.
Does Mr. Acuna have a place to live?
He does.
Where's that?
He lives with family members, and he has, I would call it like his own bedroom area. It looks like it used to be maybe a back porch, but he has a bedroom area and access to a bathroom.
Is there enough space there for Ashley if she were placed with Mr. Acuna?
Yes, there's enough space for a playpen so they can practice safe sleep. Yes.
Is that home safe and appropriate?
I have been to the home and I noted no safety concerns. There are some power tools because they are roofers and sometimes they bring those inside. However, they put them in a room that there is a door with a lock on it.
And have you run background checks on those family members?
I have.
And there's no issues with their background checks?
Correct.
And they're a good support for Mr. Acuna?
Yes, they are a part of his support team. They have slowly been developing a plan for Ashley's daily care if she is able to return to Mr. Acuna.
Does he have a job?
Yes.
He's a roofer with a relative?
Correct.
And you did get-
His relative is also his boss.
Okay, so you did get confirmation of that he's working?
Yes, I received a typed letter from the cousin/boss indicating his payment amount. He does get paid in cash.
Is Mr. Acuna working? Is he attending some parenting classes?
Yes, he began parenting at the Pregnancy Help Center, but realized after one session that was not for him. And so he is now doing in-home individual parenting through High Sky. And he's done, I believe, 3 sessions at this time.
How many sessions are there usually with High Sky for parenting?
I apologize, I don't know the number offhand, but I know it's about 3 months.
So he probably still needs another couple of months of those parenting classes.
Yes.
Does, from what you've talked to him about and what you've seen in the visits, it appear that he is utilizing the tools that he's learning in the parenting classes?
I don't think I've seen anything yet from the parenting classes that he's implementing. One worry that I have that's recently come up, and I have sent an email to his parenting coach to see if she can incorporate this in her curriculum. But I am concerned about Mr. Acuna's ability to assess safety when it comes to Miss Rojas and her drug use and being around the baby.
Do you think that this is something that he can learn from in his parenting classes, or?
I believe so, and also with conversations outside of those parenting classes, I believe so.
And now that he's been adjudicated as the father of Ashley, those are things that you can work on with him as well as High Sky can work on with him.
Yes,
Is he compliant with his probation?
yes.
And they regularly test him?
Yes, I believe at the beginning, they were testing him every 2 weeks, and that was, he had to report every 2 weeks. I believe, according to Mr. Acuna, that he's down to checking in once a month. But when I did talk to his probation officer, she did confirm that he is in compliance.
And he recently tested for you on a UA February 17th or last month, and that was negative.
Correct,
And you asked him to go today as well for a hair strand and a UA,
correct.
and he's agreed to do that.
He has.
Do you believe that in light of the recent fact that he was adjudicated as the father, that Mr. Acuna needs a little bit more time in order to continue to build a relationship with Ashley, as well as work the services and know what it's like to take care of a 1-year-old, those kinds of things?
I do.
Because to your knowledge, he didn't have any contact with her prior to the last, 3-4 months?
Correct.
And he's been working with the placement as well, as far as maybe going to her birthday party. They're working together.
Yes, the caregiver has been in communication with Mr. Acuna, made sure that he knows, days that she's not feeling well, those kind of things. And yes, caregiver did invite Mr. Acuna to the birthday party this weekend.
Okay. And as far as the mom is concerned, Miss Rojas, she's not doing services and she's still using illegal substances.
Unfortunately, yes.
And she's admitting that to you.
Yes, she's told me she's using heroin and meth.
And she's supportive of Mr. Acuna trying to obtain rights or custody of Ashley.
She is, and she has talked about how she is not in a good place right now and knows that she cannot parent.
And she's currently pregnant.
She is.
Is the thought that Mr. Acuna is the father of that baby as well?
It's a possibility.
When is she due?
In our last conversation, she said that it's estimated mid-May.
Has Mr. Acuna indicated that if this new baby is his, that he would want to step up and care for it in light of Miss Rojas's drug situation?
He has talked about it. I think he's going back and forth whether he could take on a newborn, especially if there are medical issues, developmental issues, drug exposure. So he's thinking about it at this time.
Okay. And Ashley is healthy. She's up to date on all her medical. There's nothing going on with her at this time.
She does have asthma and she does get treatment every morning. And I apologize. I believe I omitted one of the medications in my last court report. She's on, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, budesonide, and that's her everyday medication that she takes in her breathing treatment. And then she also has albuterol as needed. So she does have asthma.
And she is doing ECI services, physical therapy, and making good progress there.
Making great progress.
And is Mr. Acuna aware of that therapy and what that involves?
Yes.
And he's aware of the her asthma and what that would involve as well?
He is. He actually has asthma and bronchitis issues for himself, so he's very aware.
And the relatives that he lives with, they would be on board if Ashley were placed back or was placed with Mr. Acuna?
Yes.
And so you're asking the court today to grant the motion to retain, so continue to work with Mr. Acuna and Ashley.
Yes,
Do you believe that to be in Ashley's best interest at this time?
I do.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Goodman, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Sonnenberg, when was the last time you had contact with Serena Rojas?
She had a parent-child visit last Friday, and I apologize, I don't remember the date, but I had contact with her then.
That was at the CPS office?
Correct. Oh, and I apologize. I did text with her this morning. She let me know that I sent the court link to the wrong email address, so I sent it to her correct address.
Do you know off the top of your head, or can you email me just to make sure that I have the latest phone number for her?
Yes, I will do that.
And when was the last time that you drug tested her?
I asked for her to drug test in February on the 15th, and she did not go. I've also asked her this morning through a text if she would take a UA for me today.
And has she completed any of her services other than visiting with the child?
No, ma'am.
Has she attempted any of her services?
She's been to Journey Recovery Center 3 times. The first 2 times she made it 7 to 10 days. And the third attempt, she was there about 30 days. She was medically discharged for having the flu and was supposed to go back when she was symptom-free, but never returned.
Okay. Have you spoke with her about possibly going back to treatment?
Yes, we actually had that conversation on Friday, and she said she'd been thinking about it.
Okay. Do you know where she's living?
I do not.
Do you know if Mr. Rojas has any of that, or sorry, Mr. Acuna has any of that information?
I don't know.
Right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Acuna,
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
have, do you have any questions for the caseworker at this time?
No.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything further, Ms. Surratt?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Goodman, any witnesses or statements?
Judge, I would just like to ask Mr. Acuna if he has any contact information for Ms. Rojas.
Mr. Acuna, do you,
Sometimes I wouldn't be able to give you a phone number because she contacts me on Facebook whenever she contacts me.